the last coin in his pocket. The sky above the planet Teresa was purple, always filled with slow-moving clouds and glowing stars. Joran sat on a broken bench in the corner of a busy alien street. His boots were dusty, his shirt torn, and his hands empty, except for one small golden coin. It was his last coin. Not even enough to buy food, not enough to rent a bed, and definitely not enough to leave the planet. He had come here chasing a promise. A friend once told him Teresa had jobs for humans. They needed workers and they paid well. But when he arrived, he found the truth. Humans were not welcome here. They were seen as weak, slow, and dirty. No one wanted to hire him. Some even called him filth from the blue world. His stomach growled again. He had not eaten in 2 days. He had drunk only water from public taps. Now even his legs felt weak. His eyes searched the street. Maybe someone would show kindness. But no one looked at him. They walked past, some with rich robes and glowing bracelets, others with shiny armor and golden staffs. He stood up slowly, breathing heavy. He had to do something. He walked down a narrow alley where old buildings stood close together. One building had a small sign in Tirasan language. He couldn't read it, but there was a picture of a bowl. Maybe it was a diner. He entered. The smell of soup made his head spin with hunger. An alien behind the counter looked at him with disgust. "No money, no food," the alien said without waiting for Joran to speak. Joran placed his last coin on the counter. "Can I get anything with this?" The alien laughed, a cold sound. "You can get laughed at." Joran picked up his coin, turned around, and walked back outside. The sun was setting. A cold wind touched his skin. His eyes burned, not from the wind, but from the hopeless feeling growing inside him. He kept walking. Then he saw it. A small house at the edge of the alley. It looked old, but clean. The windows were dark. He didn't know why, but something pulled him toward it. Maybe he could ask for water, just water. Maybe someone kind lived there. He walked to the door and knocked once. Nothing. He knocked again, a little louder. A moment later, the door opened with a soft creak. An alien woman stood there, tall and beautiful, with green skin that shimmered slightly under the fading light. Her silver eyes were calm but sharp, like she was used to danger. She wore a dark purple cloak, and a golden chain hung around her neck. Joran tried to speak, but his dry throat stopped him. He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry to disturb you, I need water." She looked at him in silence, not angry, not afraid, just curious. "Are you human?" she asked. He nodded. "No credits?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not a single one." The woman tilted her head. "And no one would help you?" Joran looked down, ashamed. "No one even looked at me." She stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Come in." His eyes widened. "Really?" "Just for water," she said, her voice smooth and cool. "Don't try anything stupid." Joran stepped inside. It was warm. The air smelled like flowers and old wood. The floor was clean, and a small fire glowed in the center of the room. She gave him a glass of water. He drank it slowly, carefully. It felt like life, returning to his body. "What's your name?" she asked. "Joran. I'm Valari," she said, sitting down across from him. "This is my home, and I don't usually open my door to strangers." Joran looked at her. Then, "Why did you help me?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked into the fire. "Because I have a problem, and maybe you're the answer." Joran blinked. "Me?" She turned her gaze to him. "I need a husband. Not for love, not for real. Just for a short time." He nearly dropped his glass. "What?" "It's the law," she continued. "If a woman lives alone without a partner, the council can take her property. They say it's for protection, but it's just control. I need a partner to keep my home, someone to pretend." Joran looked around. The house was old but safe. Warm. Better than sleeping in the dirt. "So what do you want from me?" "You stay here. Pretend to be my husband. Follow my rules. No touching, no lies. And never ask about the locked room. Joran paused. And what do I get? Food, bed, protection, a home for now. He stared at her. This felt strange, but what choice did he have? Okay, he said slowly. I'll do it. Valari nodded once. Then, the rules begin now. Outside, the wind howled louder. Inside, Joran had no idea. He had just stepped into a life that would change everything. The deal of survival. Joran woke up in a real bed for the first time in many days. The mattress was old but soft, and a blanket covered him that smelled like dried flowers. The room was quiet, lit only by the soft blue glow of a crystal on the wall. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. But then he remembered Valari and her strange offer. He sat up and looked around. The room was simple. No mirrors, no pictures, only a small table, a chair, and a closed door that led to the rest of the house. Last night, after agreeing to her terms, she had shown him this room and told him to rest. Her tone was cold but polite. Not warm, not cruel, just distant. As he walked into the main room, Valari was already sitting at the table. A pot of hot stew steamed in front of her. She poured him a bowl and didn't speak for a full minute. You slept like the dead, she finally said without looking up. I was close to becoming one, Joran replied. A small smirk touched her lips, then vanished just as fast. Eat, she said. He did, slowly, carefully. His stomach still wasn't used to real food. Each bite reminded him of how far he had fallen. We have to talk, Valari said, her voice sharper now. You agreed to pretend, but this is more serious than you think. Joran looked up from his bowl. I'm listening. Valari leaned, back in her chair. The council of this district watches everything. There are drones that pass every few days. Neighbors report what they see. If they suspect this is fake, we're both finished. Joran raised an eyebrow. What do you mean by finished? You'll be deported, or imprisoned, and I'll lose my home, maybe more. He swallowed hard. Okay. What do I have to do? We must act like partners in every way. Eat together. Walk together. Speak to each other like we've lived together for years. I have a cover story. I told the council that you arrived last season from Earth and we've been bonding since. Bonding? He said with a chuckle. She gave him a flat stare. Not that kind. Right, sorry. She handed him a small device, black and smooth, shaped like a ring. Wear this when we're outside. It will show your identity as my registered partner. He placed it on his finger. It locked in place with a soft click. Then Valari's expression grew more serious. There's one more thing, she said. No matter what happens, do not try to open the locked room. Joran's smile faded. I already agreed to that. I'm reminding you, she said, because it's more than just a door. It's a piece of my life I don't want touched. Can I ask why? No. The air grew heavy between them. Suddenly a loud knock hit the front door. 3 sharp hits. Joran jumped slightly. Valari's body stiffened. Sit. Stay quiet, she whispered and walked to the door. Joran couldn't see who it was, but he heard voices. One male, deep and angry. Another female, calm and official. We received a report that you were still unbonded, the man said. That report is false, Valari replied. Then prove it, the woman added. Valari stepped aside. He's right there, you can speak to him. 2 aliens entered, guards in gray uniforms. Their skin was dull red, eyes like burning coals. They looked at Joran with doubt. You're the human partner? The male asked. Joran stood slowly. Yes, my name is Joran. Valari and we met last season. How did you meet? The woman asked. Joran paused. He remembered Valari's instructions. Stay calm. Stick to the story. I was selling maps at the port, he said. She was looking for a path through the southern forests. I offered to guide her. A guide? The male snorted. She got lost. Joran continued. I found her again, during a sandstorm. She gave me shelter and, well, one thing led to another. The guards exchanged looks. Then the woman nodded slowly. We'll return in a week for confirmation. If we sense any lies, your bond will be investigated. Understood, Valari said coldly. They left without saying goodbye. Joran exhaled, shaking slightly. You did well, Valari said. Very natural. I don't like being tested, he muttered. Get used to it, she replied. This planet survives by watching, by judging. As the door closed, a deep hum came from the back of the house, a low, pulsing sound like a heartbeat. Valari's eyes shifted for just a moment. Joran noticed. What is that? He asked. The old generator, she lied. But Joran didn't believe her. That sound came from behind the locked door, and now he was sure. Whatever Valari was hiding wasn't just her past, it was alive. Whispers in the locked room. The hum behind. The locked room didn't stop. Every night Joran lay in bed and listened to it, soft at first like a pulse beneath the floorboards. But as the house grew silent, it got louder, steady, alive, like breathing, like something waiting. He had promised Valari not to ask about the room, but each passing hour made that promise harder. Valari avoided the topic. She acted normal during the day, served meals, cleaned the house, asked him to sit beside her when they went outside. They even practiced their bond story, laughed at fake memories and smiled at spying neighbors. But once the sun went down, she turned quiet, distant. She locked herself in her room or sat near the fire staring into the flames. On the fourth night, Joran couldn't sleep. The sound was louder now, and something new was there. A whisper. At first he thought it was the wind, but the words were too clear. Help. Please. He sat up fast, heart racing. The sound came again, soft, broken, childlike. Cold, please. Mother. Joran stood barefoot on the floor, not caring how cold it was. The whispers pulled him like a string. He walked slowly through the hallway toward the locked door. The hum vibrated beneath his feet now, like a machine under the house. He reached the door and touched it. It was warm. Wake me. His fingers hovered near the old keypad lock. He knew Valari would be furious, but this voice wasn't fake. It was real. It was crying. He turned around quickly, trying to shake off the urge, but then he saw something, light, leaking from under the door, a soft blue glow. His hand moved before his mind could stop it. He typed in a random code, 000 nothing. He tried 1234, still nothing. But then he remembered the number on Valari's necklace, 4 digits carved in gold. 2417. He typed it in, click. The lock opened. Joran stepped inside. The air inside the room was heavy and cold, like stepping into a tomb. Glowing blue lights lit the walls, and in the center stood a large glass pod surrounded by tubes and wires. Inside the pod was a child, a small figure, curled up, asleep, or frozen. Skin pale with a faint silver tint. Hair short and white. The child looked human, but not fully. Half of the face looked like Joran's own, but the eyes, though closed, had marks like Valari's, tiny silver lines near the corners. Joran's breath caught. What is this? The pod beeped softly. Then the child's eyes opened. Bright silver. They stared at him through the glass. Father. The voice came not from the pod, but inside Joran's mind. He stepped back, heart pounding. What did you say? Father. You came back. No, I'm not. The door slammed open behind him. Valari stood there, her eyes wide, her chest rising fast. What are you doing? She shouted, rushing forward. I told you, never open this door. Joran turned to her, still stunned. Who is that child? You were told not to ask. Too late, he whispered. She called me father. Valari's face froze. Then slowly, her anger turned into something else. Grief. She sat on the floor and put her hands over her face. For a long time, she didn't speak, just breathed in pain. Finally, she looked up at Joran. Her name is Nail, and she's mine. But she looks like me, Joran said, still staring at the pod. Valari nodded. She was born from love and betrayal. She told him everything. Years ago, Valari had fallen in love with a human explorer named Colvin. He wasn't like others. He was kind, gentle, and brave. He promised to stay, promised a future, and when she told him she was pregnant, he vanished. The council turned against her. A half-breed child was shameful, dangerous. They said the child might have powers, might bring disorder. They tried to take the baby, so she hid her, locked her in this pod frozen in time. I come here every night, she whispered. I sing to her, speak to her. It keeps her alive. But soon the pod will fail. Why not ask for help? Joran asked, who would help me? Who would help her? Joran didn't have an answer. He looked again at the child inside the pod. Her eyes were still open. Tears floated in zero gravity within the pod. She thought I was him, he said quietly. Valari wiped her face. You look like Colvin, but you're not him. Joran clenched his fists. No, I'm not him, but maybe I can be better. Valari blinked. We can't keep her in this machine forever, Joran continued. If she's your daughter, then she's mine too now. Valari stared at him. For the first time, something in her eyes changed. Trust. A low alarm beeped from the pod. Valari's eyes widened. The stasis field is breaking, Joran stepped forward. Then we wake her up. The truth of Valari's past. The sharp beeping grew louder. Lights on the stasis pod turned from soft blue to blinking red. Lines of data scrolled across the side screen in a strange alien script, moving faster and faster. Valari rushed to the controls. Her hand shook as she tapped the keys, trying to stabilize the system. Her breathing was fast, panicked. The core's failing, she muttered. I kept it going for 5 years, and now it's dying. Joran stood behind her, eyes locked on the child in the pod. Nail. Her silver eyes still stared at him through the fogged glass. Her tiny hand was pressed against the inside, reaching for him. Can she survive outside? He asked. Valari didn't answer right away. She pressed one final button, and the alarm stopped. The pod let out a loud hiss as the pressure began to equalize. She might live, Valari whispered. Or she might not. Joran looked at her. You mean she could die? Valari nodded once, eyes full of fear. She's never breathed real air, never walked. Her body is half human, half Tirasan. The balance is delicate. Waking her now, it's dangerous. And if we do nothing? Valari turned to him. Then she'll die in her sleep, quietly. Forgotten. Silence filled the room. Joran stepped forward and placed his hand on the pod. She already spoke to me. In my mind. She's not just surviving in there. She's waiting. Valari's eyes welled with tears. I couldn't protect her outside, the council. They would have taken her away, called her a mistake. She's not a mistake, Joran said firmly. She's your daughter, and now she's ours. Valari stared at him, really stared. For the first time, her walls cracked, her voice trembled. I loved a human once. Colvin. He saved me when my ship was attacked. He was strong, brave, and always smiling. I believed his promises. When he left, I was already carrying Nael. I thought he'd come back. But months passed. And then I found out. Found out what? Valari looked away. Colvin wasn't just a traveler. He worked for the same council that feared mixed-blood children. He was sent to test me, to see if I was loyal. And when he confirmed I wasn't, he vanished. And the orders came. Joran's stomach turned. They used you. Yes, she said softly. And when I gave birth, the council told me she wasn't allowed to live. They feared what she might become. They said she'd bring war. She touched the glass gently, so I built this pod in secret, using stolen tech. I've lived in silence, hiding her, singing to her each night to keep the mental link strong, hoping that maybe one day someone would help me bring her back. The pod let out another loud hiss. The top began to open. Joran stepped beside. Valari, heart pounding. Warm mist poured from the sides as the pod slowly rose. Inside, Nail trembled, her body fragile, her skin pale. Valari reached out and lifted her carefully. The girl was light as air. She curled against her mother, whimpering, softly, eyes half open. "Mama." The voice was weak but clear. Valari held her close, crying silently. "I'm here. I never left you." Nael looked up at Joran, confused. "Daddy?" she whispered. Joran blinked, his throat tight. "Not your real one, but if you'll let me, I'll try to be." The girl smiled faintly before closing her eyes again. They wrapped her in blankets and laid her near the fire. Valari gave her drops of medicine, small sips of warm broth, and sang an old Tirasan lullaby. Joran watched the way her voice calmed the child. Like magic. But the moment of peace didn't last long. A sharp knock came at the door. Then another. Harder. Valari tensed. "It's too early. The guards, they're not supposed to return. Yet." Joran stood, grabbing the small staff she kept near the entrance. "Hide her," Valari whispered. Joran lifted Nael gently and carried her to the back. Valari opened a hidden floor panel. Beneath it, a small chamber built from old escape tech. "Stay quiet," she said to the girl. Nael nodded, curling up inside. Joran closed the panel and turned just as the front door crashed open. 3 council agents entered. One of them, the red-skinned male from before, smiled cruelly. "We had reason to believe you've been hiding something, Valari." "You can't enter without cause," she said coldly. "Your human friend has no bond registration," the agent said. "You lied to the council." Joran stepped forward. "She didn't lie. I'm her bonded partner, and I have the ring to prove it." He raised his hand. The ring blinked with green light. The agents hesitated. "And you know what else?" Joran added. "If you want to hurt her, you'll have to go through me." He raised the staff. Valari stood beside him, 2 against 3. The odds were bad, but Joran wasn't afraid. Not anymore. The fake husband must fight. The 3 council agents stared at Joran with sharp, suspicious eyes. Their dark uniforms gleamed under the firelight. The red-skinned leader, named Krath, took 1 slow step forward, smirking with cruel confidence. "Human with a wooden stick," Krath said. "What are you planning to do, scratch us?" Joran tightened his grip on the staff. It was old, made of carved Tirasan wood, but Valari had said it had once belonged to a warrior monk, and Joran had learned long ago. It's not the weapon, it's the will behind it. Valari stood beside him, her voice calm but strong. "You are violating council law by entering without warrant," the female agent replied coldly. "We don't need one. Your house was flagged. Heat signatures from below, stasis failure, unregistered tech. We traced it all here," they knew. They weren't here for questions. They were here to take Nael. Joran stepped forward. "You're not taking the child," Krath laughed. "And you'll stop us?" "Yes," Joran said. Krath raised a small, silver device. It glowed with a pulse. A weapon. Not for stunning. For killing. Valari moved first. With a flick of her wrist, she triggered the old wall panel beside the fireplace. Metal bolts shot out and slammed the door shut behind the agents, locked in. Krath turned just in time to see Joran charge. He swung the staff low, knocking Krath's hand and sending the glowing device flying. The weapon hit the floor and rolled under the table. The second agent, taller and thinner, reached for his belt. But Joran was faster. He struck the side of the man's leg and shoved him into the wall. Shelves crashed to the ground, glass shattering everywhere. Valari picked up a broken vase and threw it hard, hitting the third agent in the face. The alien stumbled backward, blood trickling from his temple. Krath growled. "Enough!" He lunged at Joran, punching him in the stomach. The blow knocked the air from his lungs. Joran dropped the staff, falling to one knee. Krath raised a hidden blade from his sleeve. Valari screamed. No. Joran rolled sideways just as the blade sliced through air, barely missing his neck. He grabbed a heavy pot from the fire pit and swung it. It struck Krath's shoulder, knocking him off balance. Flames spilled across the floor, licking at the edges of the room. The other two agents were rising again. The taller one reached for a communicator. Joran shouted, "Valari, now!" She ran to the panel behind the fireplace and yanked the emergency trigger. The ceiling above the agents dropped a magnetic pulse trap, an old Tyrosan defense system. Boom. All three agents froze mid-step. The trap locked their limbs. Their bodies stiffened like statues. Joran dropped to the floor, breathing hard. Valari rushed to his side. "Are you hurt?" "Just bruised," he said, wiping sweat from his face. "We don't have much time." They sent the signal. More will come. They both rushed to the back of the house. Joran opened the floor panel, where Nael was hidden. She blinked up at him, scared but alert. "Come on, little star," he said gently. "We have to go." He lifted her into his arms, and Valari grabbed a small bag, packed and ready with clothes, tools, and an energy pack. Outside the house, Joran opened a hidden path under the garden stones. It led to the old tunnels built during the last war. Few remembered them, but Valari did. As they entered the shadows, Nael whispered, "Why are they chasing us?" Joran held her close. "Because they don't understand you, and people fear what they don't understand." Nael looked up. "Am I bad?" Valari paused, then knelt beside her daughter. "You are the most precious being I've ever known. Never let them make you believe otherwise." They walked for an hour, through dust, darkness, and dripping water. Finally, they reached an old gate, half rusted but still strong. Valari touched a hidden panel. It opened with a groan. Outside was the desert, wide and empty, but free. Joran turned back once, looking at the distant glow of their old house. It was no longer home. Not anymore. "What now?" he asked. Valari looked at the stars. "We survive. We run. We protect her until the day this world is ready to accept her." Nael held both their hands, and as they walked into the night, Joran knew one thing clearly. He had come to this planet with nothing, no money, no purpose. But now, he had something more powerful than any weapon. He had a reason to fight. Awakening. The child. The desert wind howled across the broken hills of Teresa, carrying dust, dry leaves, and silence. Joran, Valari, and Nael had traveled through secret tunnels and abandoned paths for hours. Now they camped in a hidden cave carved into the side of a canyon. It was cold, but safe. For now, a small fire crackled in the center. Valari sat close, feeding it bits of dried root. Joran leaned against the wall, eyes scanning the cave entrance. He held the staff loosely across his lap. His body ached from the fight, but his mind was restless. Nael slept wrapped in soft cloths. Her breathing was shallow, her skin pale. "She's getting weaker," Joran said quietly. Valari nodded. The stasis pod kept her alive, but it didn't prepare her body for this world. Her system is confused. Too much light, too much sound. She's not used to it. "What can we do?" "She must awaken completely," Valari said. "Not just in body, but in mind." Joran looked at her. "What do you mean?" Valari turned toward him, her voice almost a whisper. "Nael is not like us, not fully. She carries both bloods, human and Tyrosan. That alone makes her rare. But there's something more." Joran's grip on the staff tightened. "Tell me." Valari leaned closer to the fire. "When she was still inside me, before the council knew, I felt strange things, dreams that weren't mine, voices when I was alone. And then, she moved things, without touching them." Joran blinked. "You mean, like telekinesis?" Valari nodded slowly. "It scared me. Even her father didn't know. I kept it secret. I thought it might fade. But as she grew, so did the power." They both looked at the sleeping girl. Her small chest rose and fell, but her face looked pained, like she was stuck between two worlds. "So how do we wake her mind?" Joran asked. Valari hesitated. "There's an old Tyrasan ritual. It was used for children born during eclipse seasons, when the sky touches fire, and the child's soul gets trapped in shadows. The ritual brings their spirit fully into this world. What do we need?" "Nothing," she said softly. "Just someone she trusts. Someone willing to walk into her dream and pull her out." Joran looked at the fire, then at the girl. "I'll do it." Valari's eyes widened. "Joran, it's not safe. If she pulls you too deep, you may not come back." She already called. "Me, father." "If that means anything, it means I don't walk away now." Valari said nothing, but her hand slowly reached for his. She squeezed it once tightly. Later, as night deepened, Joran lay beside the girl. Valari whispered the old words of the ritual in her own language, each syllable slow, musical, and haunting. The fire dimmed. The air grew heavy. Then, everything faded. Joran's eyes opened again, but not in the cave. He was standing in a vast empty space, glowing with white fog and strange shifting lights. The ground felt like glass, and around him, voices whispered in thousands of directions. "Who are you? Why did you come? He is not the one." "Nail," he shouted. A small figure appeared in the mist. It was her, but she looked different, older. Her eyes were bright silver, glowing with soft fire. She wore a robe made of starlight. She looked at him with both fear and hope. "You're not my real father?" she said. "No," Joran said gently. "But I want to be here. I want to protect you." "They called me broken," she whispered. "A mistake. My mother cries every night. I hear her." "You are not broken," Joran said firmly. "You are a miracle." The voices grew louder, darker. Too dangerous. Too different. Must be erased. The fog turned red. Winds swirled. A massive shadow formed behind her, a tall figure with no face, with claws made of glass. Nail screamed. "They're coming!" Joran ran forward and wrapped his arms around her. The ground cracked beneath them, but he didn't let go. "Listen to me," he shouted over the roar. "You are real, you are strong, and you are loved." The shadow reached for them. Nail pressed her hand against Joran's chest, and suddenly, light exploded from her palm. The shadow screamed and shattered into pieces. The fog vanished. Joran gasped and sat up, back in the cave. The fire was blazing bright again. Valari rushed to his side. "Joran, are you okay?" He looked to his left. Nail was awake, really awake. She sat up slowly, looking at them both. Her eyes were clear, calm, no longer afraid. "I'm here," she said. Valari pulled her into a hug, tears flowing freely. Joran wrapped his arms around them both. Outside the cave, the first light of morning broke across the horizon. But far in, the distance, shadows were moving. They had awakened something powerful, and the world was not ready. A family built by fate. The sun rose slowly over the red hills of Teresa. For the first time in years, the morning felt warm to Valari, not just from the fire beside her, but from the child curled against her side, breathing softly and peacefully. Nael was awake, alive, and glowing. Her silver eyes blinked gently as she looked at her mother, then at Joran, who sat a few steps away, sharpening the old wooden staff. "I feel different," she said, her voice quiet but clear. Valari nodded. "You've awakened. Not just from sleep, but from silence." Joran smiled. "And you scared the darkness out of my head like a little warrior." Nael giggled and leaned into her mother. For a moment, the world felt still, but outside the cave, the world had not stopped watching. The same drones that had followed Valari's house were now circling the outer desert. Council soldiers were sweeping the border zones, and above them, ships with black sails moved slowly across the sky like silent crows. The council knew. They had seen the energy spike when Nael awakened. They had felt the force she unleashed in her dream. They were coming. Valari packed quickly. Small weapons, food capsules, a map etched into the cloth of her belt. Joran carried Nail in a sling across his chest. She giggled at the way he stumbled on rocks and called him Silly Papa. But as they moved across the canyon ridge, a sharp hum filled the air. Ships, 3 of them, dropping from the sky like thunder. Valari pulled Joran behind a rock wall just as a laser cannon fired into the earth where they had been standing. The ground exploded. Dust rained down. Nail screamed. "They found us!" Valari shouted. A voice echoed from the ship speakers. Cold, robotic, without mercy. "Surrender the hybrid child. All resistance will result in termination." Joran stood, holding the staff. "Keep running," he said. Valari grabbed his arm. "What are you doing? They want her. They'll keep chasing unless we end this. We can't fight ships. But maybe we can give them something else to think about." Valari hesitated, then nodded. She pulled Nail close. "We'll find the old shrine in the north. It's protected by the skyroot trees. Go there." Joran turned and kissed her quickly. It was the first time, and maybe the last. Then he ran, straight, toward the ships. From the ridge, Nail watched him run like a spark through the storm. Council soldiers dropped down in armor, aiming weapons, but Joran didn't stop. He jumped over a broken wall, then disappeared under one of the ships. Moments later, fire. A blast lit up the sky. Joran had broken the fuel pod of the lead ship. Flames spread across the canyon like a wave. Soldiers screamed. The ship tilted and crashed into a hillside. Valari grabbed her daughter's hand. "Now!" They ran through the fire-lit shadows, their shapes hidden by smoke. Behind them, the second ship landed. Soldiers poured out. One of them pointed toward the fleeing pair. "There, the child." Lasers flew. One shot grazed Valari's arm. She stumbled, fell, but pulled Nail down with her. Then, something changed. Nail stood up. Her small body shook not from fear but from energy. Her eyes glowed again, and the earth beneath them began to tremble. "No!" Valari cried. "Not now." But it was too late. Nail raised her hand. The sky cracked with sound. A giant root burst from the ground beneath the soldiers, sweeping them off their feet. Vines wrapped their weapons, snapped their armor. The second ship tried to lift, but its engines were pulled down by growing trees that erupted from the desert floor. Valari shielded her face. When the dust cleared, silence returned. Nael fell to her knees. Her power had stopped everything. Valari rushed to her, holding her tight. "What did you do?" Nael looked up, tired but smiling. "I asked the world to protect us." Hours later, at the shrine in the north, Joran arrived, burned, bruised, but alive. "You came back," Valari whispered, her voice full of tears. "I promised," he said, falling to his knees beside them. For the first time, they sat together. No fear, no lies, no pretending, just a family. And as night fell again, the stars above Teresa blinked softly, like watching eyes. In the weeks that followed, rumors spread across the planet. A child of 2 worlds had awakened. Council forces had been defeated by a little girl with silver eyes. A human with no money, no name, had stood against the strongest guards, and an alien woman once seen as broken now walked proudly beside them both. People whispered their story in markets and alleys, and somewhere deep in the council chambers, fear began to grow, because love, true, fearless love, had built a new kind of family, and that family was stronger than anything they had ever prepared for.